Let's get started. Number 10. Your brain has a reality switch that can break. Scientists at University College London discovered something wild in 2025. There's a region near your temples called the fusiform gyrus that generates what they call a reality signal. When you imagine an apple, your brain activity looks almost identical to when you actually see an apple. So, how does your brain know the difference? This signal. It's basically your brain's way of saying, hey, this is real, versus this is just in your head. The fusiform gyrus creates this signal, then another region called the anterior insula evaluates it and makes the final call. Real or imagined. Here's where it gets disturbing. When this system breaks down, you start experiencing hallucinations. People with schizophrenia often have abnormalities in these exact regions. Their reality threshold gets set too low, or their imagined signals get too strong. Suddenly, the brain can't tell the difference between what's actually happening and what it's generating internally. The researchers think this discovery could lead to treatments where doctors essentially recalibrate your reality threshold through brain stimulation or neurofeedback. Imagine having a broken reality switch and getting it tuned up like a car. That's the future we're heading toward. Number 9, there's a parasite in your brain making you reckless. Around 30% of humans are infected with a single-celled organism called Toxoplasma gondii. You probably got it from undercooked meat, contaminated water, or your cat's litter box. The parasite needs to get inside a cat to reproduce. So, it evolved a terrifying ability. It literally changes its host's brain chemistry to make them more likely to get eaten by a predator. In rats, the infection makes them attracted to cat urine instead of terrified by it. They basically walk right into the cat's mouth. In humans, the effects are more subtle but still disturbing. Studies at the University of Chicago found that people with latent toxoplasmosis infections are more than twice as likely to have intermittent explosive disorder. That's the clinical term for uncontrollable rage. Infected individuals score significantly higher on tests measuring anger, aggression, and impulsivity. The parasite can secrete dopamine and manipulate your brain's fear circuits. Some research even links it to increased risk-taking behavior, more car accidents, and higher rates of entrepreneurship. 22% of people with rage disorders tested positive for the parasite, compared to just 9% of healthy controls. So, that road rage incident you had last week, maybe blame the microscopic hitchhiker in your neurons. Number 8. Your teenage brain doesn't end until 32. Scientists at Cambridge analyzed over 4,000 brain scans from people aged 0 to 90 and identified 4 major turning points in how your brain is wired. The biggest surprise was that adolescent-type brain development doesn't stop until around age 32, on average. That's not a typo. Your brain goes through 5 distinct epochs, and the adolescent phase is when neural efficiency is actually increasing. Your brain is making connections shorter and faster, building the wiring that will define your adult cognition. The turning point at 32 marks the strongest topological shift across your entire lifespan, more dramatic than any other transition. After that, you enter the adult phase where your brain architecture finally stabilizes. No major changes for about 30 years. This explains so much about why people in their 20s still make such impulsive decisions. Their brains are literally still in teenager mode, structurally speaking. It also explains why most mental health disorders first appeared during this extended adolescent phase. The brain is at its most flexible and therefore most vulnerable during this period. Number 7. Babies have Alzheimer's proteins. Here's something that should terrify and comfort you simultaneously. Researchers discovered that healthy newborns have elevated levels of a protein called phosphorylated tau 217. This is the exact same protein doctors use to diagnose Alzheimer's disease in adults. In fact, these infants had higher levels than people actually suffering from Alzheimer's. This sounds bad until you realize what it means. These proteins, which form the tangles that destroy neurons in Alzheimer's, patients aren't inherently deadly. In newborns, they appear to serve some developmental function, and then the body clears them. This suggests Alzheimer's damage might be reversible under the right conditions. The same tau phosphorylation has been observed in hibernating animals like ground squirrels and black bears. Their brains do this during torpor, then reverse it when they wake up. Scientists think it might be protective during metabolic stress, A recent study even showed that restoring the brain's energy balance in mice with advanced Alzheimer's reversed their cognitive decline completely. The plasma levels of that same tau marker normalized. The disease, which we've always considered irreversible, might actually have a reset button. Number 6, your brain is literally glowing. In 2025, scientists detected light emitted by the human brain from outside the skull for the first time. Your brain produces something called biophotons, ultra-weak light emissions, that are a byproduct of cellular metabolism. Every tissue in your body does this, but your brain, being an energy-hungry overachiever using 20% of your body's fuel, glows brightest of all. Researchers at Wilfrid Laurier University put people in completely dark rooms with photomultiplier tubes pointed at their heads. These detectors can count individual photons. What they found was remarkable. The light emissions changed depending on what cognitive task the person was performing. Eyes open versus closed, listening to sounds versus resting. Different activities produce different patterns. Scientists don't know yet whether these biophotons actually do anything or if they're just metabolic exhaust, but some researchers suspect they might play a role in cellular communication within the brain. One study from the 1920s showed that onion roots could stimulate growth in neighboring roots even through glass barriers, but not through opaque ones. Light-based signaling between cells might be more important than we ever realized. Number 5, adults can grow new brain cells. For most of the 20th century, scientists believed you were born with all the neurons you'd ever have. That was supposedly it. Your brain couldn't regenerate. This belief shaped everything from how we thought about learning to how we treated brain injuries. It was completely wrong. In July 2025, researchers at the Karolinska Institutet published definitive proof that adult humans grow new neurons in the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for memory and learning. They used advanced RNA sequencing and machine learning to identify proliferating neural progenitor cells in brain tissue from people aged 0 to 78. 9 out of 14 adult brains showed clear evidence of ongoing neurogenesis. This discovery has massive implications for treating everything from Alzheimer's to depression. If we can figure out how to stimulate this natural process, we might be able to boost memory formation and cognitive function. Exercise, sleep, and certain nutrients already seem to encourage neurogenesis. Your brain isn't a static machine slowly degrading. It's actively rebuilding itself. You just need to give it the right conditions. Number 4, a dormant virus may trigger Alzheimer's. More than 80% of adults over 60 have been infected with herpes simplex virus 1. That's the virus that causes cold sores. It never actually leaves your body. It goes dormant, hiding in your neurons for decades. New research suggests that when this virus reactivates later in life, it might trigger Alzheimer's disease. A 2025 study found that people with symptomatic herpes, simplex virus type 1 infections had significantly higher odds of developing Alzheimer's compared to those without. The virus appears to cause brain inflammation and accelerate the buildup of amyloid beta plaques, one of the hallmarks of the disease. Researchers even discovered HSV1 proteins co-localized with tau tangles in brain regions, especially vulnerable to Alzheimer's. The really disturbing part is that head injuries might wake the virus up. A study using miniature brain models showed that simulated concussions reactivated latent herpes infections. So, all those athletes and military personnel getting repeated head trauma might be inadvertently triggering time bombs in their brains. The silver lining is that antiviral treatments seem to reduce dementia risk. We might already have tools to prevent some cases of Alzheimer's if this connection holds up. Number 3, your walking pattern predicts dementia years early. Researchers have discovered that subtle changes in how you walk can predict cognitive decline before any standard test catches it. Walking isn't the automatic activity we once thought. It requires constant coordination from cortical, subcortical, and cerebellar regions. When these start failing, your gait changes first. Motor deficits have been detected up to 12 years before a dementia diagnosis. People with Lewy body dementia have a unique walking signature. They vary their step time and length more frequently and show asymmetry between left and right steps. Alzheimer's patients show different patterns, with high gait variability during cognitive tasks, like counting backwards while walking. Scientists are developing systems where you walk across a sensor mat or get tracked by a depth camera, and software analyzes your footsteps to flag early cognitive decline. Curved path walking seems especially sensitive for detecting problems. Your brain has to work harder to navigate turns and changes in direction. Someone with mild cognitive impairment will show measurable deficits in curved walking even when straight-line walking looks normal. Number 2. Scientists found hidden layers in your memory center. The hippocampus is where memories get formed and stored. It's one of the first regions to deteriorate in Alzheimer's disease. Scientists thought they understood its structure pretty well. They were wrong. In December 2025, researchers at USC discovered that the CA1 region of the hippocampus contains 4 distinct layers of specialized neurons that nobody knew existed. Using RNA imaging to map over 330,000 genetic signals across tens of thousands of neurons, they found these layers form continuous bands that shift in thickness along the length of the structure. Each layer is defined by a unique molecular signature. This explains why different parts of the hippocampus support different behaviors, from memory formation to spatial navigation to emotional processing. More importantly, it explains why certain neurons are vulnerable in specific diseases. If Alzheimer's preferentially targets one layer while epilepsy targets another, we finally have a roadmap for understanding exactly which cell types are at risk and potentially how to protect them. Number 1. Scientists can now edit your memories while you sleep. Researchers at the University of Hong Kong published a technique for weakening negative memories and strengthening positive ones, using nothing but audio cues played during non-REM sleep. They had participants learn associations between nonsense words and disturbing images. After a night's sleep to consolidate these memories, they introduced positive images linked to half the same words, creating competing memories. On the second night, while participants slept, researchers played the audio cues at low volume. The participants didn't wake up, but their brains registered the sounds and reactivated the associated memories. The results were striking. When tested the next morning, recall of the negative images dropped for words that had been cued during sleep. Positive memory intrusions increased. Participants even showed more positive emotional responses when making quick judgments. The technique works because sleep is when your brain reorganizes and consolidates memories. By selectively reactivating certain associations, you can bias which memories get strengthened and which get weakened. This could eventually help people with PTSD or trauma, though the researchers caution that deliberately altering memories raises serious ethical questions we haven't fully worked out yet. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.